Greetings, this is the Garage Autonomist. I came across this video today while I was researching stuff for a different topic and thought it would be cool to share it with you. I noticed by the way that Latina feminist channels on YouTube do not get fucked with. Not even by Latino males. I would mention some of the channels, but I don't want to create that negative traffic for them, so the white male dregs or black lost boys of the black sector will come their way. Sure, these women most likely are harassed in their communities in the meatverse. But at least on YouTube they can be spared the extra bullshit. This video is also part of my research for a video in the near future about deconstructing masculinity. I feel that the only people who have the true voice and grasp on what masculinity is are those who critique and seek to dismantle it in order to rebuild it. Have a great weekend. This is the Garage Autonomist.
So if like a dude or like a person is shitty to someone that they're in a relationship with in a way that's tied to patriarchy or heteropatriarchy, which it frequently is, because like Bell Hooks says, patriarchal masculinity teaches people to, or that their sense of self-worth is directly tied to their capacity to dominate others. So if someone's shitty to someone they're in a relationship in a way that's tied to patriarchal masculinity, that's not just something between those two people, it speaks to a greater problem in society that we have to address, because it directly affects members of our communities, and we're never gonna dismantle the patriarchy or other systems of oppression unless we start addressing how they affect all of our relationships.
So do you want me to talk about masculinity?
Yeah, or like what you think of feminist masculinity could potentially look like.
Okay, wait, so the questions were, what is feminist masculinity look like?
Latino masculinity means the following. Me llaman princesa. They call me princess or mama or bonita. They pass their eyes over my body. They tell me to wash the dishes and get their coffee. They tell me independence is sexy. They hold doors for me and give up their seats and wish me well. They don't know how to let go of their beliefs because they may be left standing without their identity, without something to claim. They don't always see their acts of oppression. It strikes down and can also take us by surprise in the ways that it can lift us up.
When we say Latina feminism is for everyone, it's for everybody and not just people who identify as feminine or women.
Yeah, so I think a founding tenet of my Latinidad was the cancha, which is the soccer field. And I grew up around a bunch of angry, really competitive brown men who definitely modeled a sort of masculinity that I naturally inherited being around them all the time. I used to play travel soccer, and there was this one game, it was in Long Island or something, and I don't know why, but I was just really frustrated with this girl, and the ball wasn't even in play, and I just pushed her to the ground. I was didn't think, I was really ashamed of myself, because I knew that wasn't what I was supposed to do, and all the parents are so angry, but now that I think about moments like that, why I fight so much, why I've gotten into so many fist fights in the last 3 years, and mostly over disrespect of my body, as a female assigned body. I just go back to those moments of brown soccer and my dad, and I think about where I picked up that kind of aggression, and not that I always equate masculinity with aggression, but this sort of masculinity that I was around was very much an aggressive brown one.
I was thinking about it on the way here, and I was thinking about how the other day you said masculinity is like a drug, and then also because I was in the co-op and we were kind of talking about it, and yeah, it's hard. On the way at first I thought feminist masculinity is almost an oxymoron, because but then I was thinking well, No, because like masculine and feminine are just kinds of like, I don't know, like why, like I think people usually think about masculinity as if it's like tied to patriarchy, which I don't know if I've ever seen it not being tied to patriarchy, but if it necessarily is inherently, is like a really, like I don't think so. I don't think anything is inherently anything, you know. Then we wouldn't be able to unlearn stuff. We wouldn't be able to transform.
When thinking about how to define a Latina feminist masculinity, the first thing that came to mind was, well, thinking about what the word Latina feminist excludes, like populations that it might exclude, and thinking about how when we say Latina feminism is for everyone, it's for everybody and not just people who identify as feminine or women. So I think, at least for me, that was like the first step in my thinking process of what it would mean to define a Latina feminist masculinity.
So Latina feminist masculinity is a hard thing to conceptualize because of how diverse our backgrounds are. You know, we come from very different spaces that ascribe different meanings to our cultural backgrounds, and to come up with one monolithic idea of a masculinity that would be in line with all of the desires of feminists from various backgrounds, from the Dominican Republic, from Puerto Rico, from Central America, what have you, is difficult. It's hard because there is no such thing as a monolithic masculinity, because I think it depends on where you are. And another thing that makes Latinidad very unique in terms of identifying a gender identity is that we're largely influenced by globalization and transnationalism. So in places like the Dominican Republic, where my father's from, his gender identity was always like a constant tension between Dominican masculinity, what is inherent to that culture, whatever that may mean, and what Western influence has prescribed upon him. And because of that, our identities are largely influenced by the internal and by the external. And because of that, I think it's hard to come up with a general idea of what that may mean, because it means different things to different people, depending on where you're from. However, we all share a history of patriarchy in our people. And that's something that transcends race and ethnic background, and I think that's something that's plagued every single pluralistic society, if you will.
A feminist masculinity would begin with recognition of women and trans and queer struggles in a dominantly heteronormative and patriarchal society. This could be as simple as listening to stories without talking or defending male privilege, or reading up on literature that would redefine and reclaim feminism from the jaws of the I hate men implications, which is harmful to the feminist movement. It would also increase sensitivity around conversations regarding gender and masculinity, facilitating space to speak from experience and not worry about being overlooked. A feminist masculinity would also have conversations about changing what masculinity means and methods or venues for people to speak up and against these systems of oppression.
What I'm thinking about feminist masculinity is masculinity without patriarchy.
What it would actually mean, I think, is kind of opening up the field, and as the field continues to evolve, making sure that more voices are included and that more stories are told and that fewer people are silenced, regardless of whether they identify as feminine or not.
I think a feminist masculinity looks like something where everybody feels comfortable in their gender identity. And that's why I think Bell Hooks says feminism is for everybody.
Yeah, it's hard because I think to a certain extent I've only started thinking about how patriarchy functions on a very personal basis. And I think it's also hard because a lot of like the feminist readings we've been doing are very abstract and focus a lot more on like women, and then also like when they do focus on men, like look more at activism instead of personal experiences.
I think something problematic about sort of the ways that I've like emulated and picked up masculinity was that it's like was always like like it never really felt specific to me. Sometimes I feel like I was just trying to be like them, and I've kind of grown up to understand that like I like need to move away from like Latino masculinity that is like doesn't fit who I am, and it's like has been unhealthy for me. What that really looks like, it looks like studying Latin American women composers. It looks like appreciating the Latino women in my life for their strength and power. It looks like only fighting when I absolutely have to. And yeah, and I'll also and also embracing queerness. And so like part of growing and like appreciating my masculinity has meant embracing my queerness, which has been pretty empowering, and like really happy that I'm in that space now. I don't know what else to say.
Is there a recording? Awesome.
Oh, did you expect me to ask questions?
You want me to hold it?
No. Well, I mean, sure, if you want to.
No.
Okay. Cool.
It's really short.
It's fine.
Okay. I could think of more.
Oh, do you know how to make vegan cake? Slash, do you have experience with that?
I was in Fair Kid for a semester, so...
What?
You can
Oh,
start.
just that looks like? Woo!
Oh, yeah. That's all I'm gonna say.